Hey, this is one that I've been putting off because honestly the Retroid Pocket 3 is not great at PlayStation 2, but I know a lot of people are really curious about it. So what I decided to do was pick out 6 PlayStation 2 games that actually do play well on Retroid Pocket 3. Of course, I'll be using Aether SX2 emulator for all of these because there's really no other option. So first, let me just show you the basic starting settings that I like to use. These first 3 are mostly just quality of life. Of course, I like it to automatically save when I quit so I can hop back into the games later. This next set are all just informational so that you can dial in performance and so that you who are watching can see what I'm doing, but they're a bit distracting, so once you dial in, you may want to turn all of that off. Now, here in system settings, you get the 2 main performance settings. This first one, if you need more performance, you want to move it to a negative number, all the way to the negative to get the most performance theoretically, and this other one to a positive number. But, we can start at normal as our baseline. I tend to keep affinity control off. I don't think the Retroid Pocket 3 really needs it. And these next 2 always on unless a game seems to be playing poorly. And finally this one, which I keep on to limit frame rate because sometimes I find it's good to boost the overall speed to get slightly better performance, but I don't want it to be displaying more frames than the game intends. Over here in graphics settings, you definitely want the OpenGL renderer, not Vulkan. Vulkan tends to run quite poorly on Retroid Pocket 3 and Aether SX2. This resolution, well, I'm not going to show you any game that won't run well at 1x or higher because I think lowering the resolution just makes the games look ugly. Everything else here, I just keep at the default settings. You want full texture caching and 4:3 aspect ratio for most games. And I definitely always leave these next 2 set on as well as the host VSync. I have all of the audio settings at their default. Memory cards, I'm sure you can sort out for yourselves. The BIOS I use is the European one because most of these games we'll be playing are the PAL version of the game. Over here in advanced, I have these options all set on. Two threads each here. Bilinear upscaling turned on, as well as anti-blur, and you almost always want to skip duplicate frames to increase performance. I'll let you take a look at the rest of my settings here, and with that out of the way, let's hop into our first game. And we're going to start with Crash Bandicoot Wrath of Cortex, a nice 3D platformer. I do have the graphics settings turned up a bit, especially the resolution. I think it looks better this way, but it does lead to some minor slowdown sometimes. However, the game is quite playable. And let's take a look at those settings. First, you want to click this button right here and come into Game Settings. And then you can just copy your settings from your defaults, but this way you can have custom game settings for every game you play, and you need that because every game has different demands when you're playing on the Retroid Pocket 3. You can see here how I have the underclock set, and you can also see how high I have the upscaling. And otherwise, everything is the same as what I showed you in the introduction, so let's jump back into the game. I hope you enjoyed Crash, but now let's check out a racing game. This is Ferrari F355 Challenge. Of course, you know I love Ridge Racer. If I could have got Ridge Racer 5 working well, I'd have showed you that, but this will have to do. Now you may have noticed some minor frame dropping there in the corner. I think it's worth it to get it looking this good at 1x resolution. I just didn't think it looked great. Let's take a look at those settings though. Here you can check out my underclocking settings. And of course, I do also have the upscaling set to 1.25 because as I said, at 1x I didn't think it looked great. The other thing I've done is set it to widescreen mode because this game actually has widescreen modes built in, so you want to set it in the options and change it to 16:9 here. That's it. Let's jump back into the game. Alright, enough driving. Let's jump over into Lumines Plus, one of my favorite puzzle games, one that's great to chill out to. I'm not surprised that it works great here. It's not a very demanding game, but I'm certainly glad that it works. And really quickly, take a look at the settings where you'll see how this game is not taxing the hardware at all. My underclocks are actually both set to 0, and I think this is the only game where I've done that, and the upscaling is all the way up at 1.5. But enough reminds. Let's kill some monsters in Serious Sam. And as you can see, Serious Sam actually runs surprisingly well. Let me show you what the settings are, the way I've got it running. One underclock is -1, the other one's all the way up at 3. And I do have the overall speed turned up to 110%. I just felt like it ran a little bit better or at a better pace that way. I do also have it set at 1.2x resolution. And this is another game where I've got the aspect ratio at 16:9 because it has its own built-in widescreen mode. But moving on to a shooter of a very different variety, this is Thunder Force 6, and I think it runs very well. Of course, there is some pretty serious slowdown here, but we may be able to take care of that. In fact, the other thing I noticed was that when this boss blasts its flames, it also slows down a bit. There you go, you can see that slowdown right there. So let's hop over into the options and see if we can take care of that. You can see here that I do not have the underclocks set as high or as low as they will go. So let's change that. I do want to keep the resolution there. Let's see how it goes now. Okay, those flames definitely didn't seem to slow the game down anymore, so that solved the issue. And our final game here is going to be Ys, the Ark of Napishtim. Did I say that right? I really don't know. First, let's take a look at the settings. You can see here we could go a little stronger with the underclocking, and I also do have the upscaling set quite high. Despite the game saying it's running at full speed, you may have also noticed that it feels a bit slow. So I came into the settings and I changed the upscaling all the way down to 1x, but the game still runs exactly the same. So I guess it's just the way it's meant to play. And it seems like I was too worried about how things were performing and not worried enough about how I was performing at the game. So it's game over. And in fact, that's game over for this video as well. I really hope you enjoyed it. I tried to show you a nice mix of stuff from platformers to racing, shooting, and RPGs. I'd love to invite you to make suggestions for more games in the comments, but to be honest, most of it won't play well. If I find another set of games that I think you'd like to see, or of course, if there's an update to this emulator that makes games perform better, I will be sure to do another video. Until then, that does it for PlayStation 2 on the Retroid Pocket 3. Please do like, subscribe, and keep leaving comments. I love seeing what you have to say. Until the next one, keep gaming.